I think that if Jasmy decides to really wake up, man, it could be so amazing. And reaching the price of $1, that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever, hypothetically speaking, during this bull run, even though that's not financial advice. I mean, you got to think about this, right? Jasmy, I get it. It's not a micro cap by any means, but at the same time, its market cap is small enough, I would say, to the point that it still has that amazing hypothetical upside. I mean, just take this to consideration. If it were to go to the price of $1, at that point, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $50 billion, and that right there is around a 37x from here. So if you think about it, man, when it comes to Jasmy, the room for growth is fantastic. Now, is it going to be the best performing thing out there of all time? No, but if actually people started, let's say, acquiring Jasmy from over a year ago, let's say, or personally for me, when I was talking about Jasmy, like in early 2023, from that point on, I'm still up by a lot, hypothetically. So the room for growth actually was originally a lot better. But for the people who join as of right now, in my opinion, it still doesn't seem so bad anyways, because just think about this, right? A 37x, let's say around, how is that caca? At least that's the way I take a look at it. Now, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but if let's say I were to put $1,000 into Jasmy right now, and let's say it were to go to the price of $1, that $1,000 would hypothetically become 37 grand. Now, that's not going to make anyone a millionaire, of course, right? That's far, even from 100K, but still, 37 grand, I don't think is too bad if let's say the originating, value was like $1,000, So the way I take a look at something like Jasmy is that it's so amazing to the point that, just going to the price of $1 is already wonderful. Now, a $50 billion market cap, I understand, may seem kind of crazy, but if we've seen BNB reach over 100 billion, Dogecoin reach over 80 billion, Ethereum reach over 550 billion, I just don't see why this would be too crazy. I'm not saying it's going to go to something random like $200 billion market cap, like what some other people are saying. I'm not saying that. But again, I don't think this is that bad anyways. Now, also, if you think about it, the hype for decentralized data storage projects, it hasn't really kicked into fifth gear yet. And I think this is going to be so beneficial to something that is focused on that market, much like Jasmy. Of course, we all know Filecoin's massive, right? Storage, Arweave, right? We know Siacoin, but then the hype really hasn't kicked in yet. And I don't want to enter in when the hype is already in fifth gear when it comes to those projects. As of right now, people are primarily focused on AI projects, meme coins, these dinosaurs like a Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, like a Solana. But eventually it's going to trickle down, And even though Jasmy is not doing like terrible by any means, I do believe that, man, once a lot of people are like, hey, have you heard about decentralized data storage? A lot of people, they may start having this domino effect where they FOMO into like projects that are focused on that market. We've seen that time and time again, right? This happened with meme coins. This happened with AI projects. It happened back in 2021 with NFT projects, DeFi projects. So this time around, I don't see why decentralized data storage projects won't have that same effect, if that makes sense. And it's not like it's a bad market anyways. It has great potential, hypothetically, in my opinion. And I think people are beginning to understand that, but it's going to take a while because even historically speaking, we do know that altcoins, they usually peak as a worst case scenario around a year and a half after a Bitcoin halving event. Now, if we base this off the last Bitcoin halving event, which happened back in April, that's actually around October of 2025. Now, this is kind of like a double-edged sword, in my opinion, because some people may view this as a bad thing, but at the same time, it can also be viewed as a good thing because some people may think, okay, that's kind of a while from right now, right? We're seeing many projects do well. But in my opinion, if let's say, as a worst case scenario, it takes Jasmy like, let's say maybe 10 months from right now to peak, I don't mind anyways, because first of all, that's more time for me to accumulate. So if I can accumulate more of what I like, let's say I had more time to do that, why would that be a bad thing? Now, second of all, if let's say, again, it is like 10 months from right now, let's say, right, as a worst case scenario, I don't view it that bad again anyways, because if anything, it showcases how Jasmy still has more time to prove itself. Because let's face it, it's very far away from being at the price of $1. So again, that's great either way to take a look at it. More time for me to accumulate, more time for Jasmy to hypothetically prove itself. Now, granted, things peak a lot sooner, yes, which I don't mind, by the way, because I've been acquiring Jasmy for ages at this point, so it wouldn't really matter either way. But if I can accumulate some more, why not? That's just the way I view it. Now, this bull run, I think, could look so magical. I mean, you just got to think about this, right? Bitcoin, as of right now, is already doing this well. Imagine what it would do in 2025. I mean, caralho. Poha, reaching the price of $200,000 at this point really wouldn't surprise me whatsoever when it comes to Bitcoin. Now, as the old saying goes, a high tide raises all ships. So if Bitcoin were to do that, could you imagine what's going to happen to something like Jasmy? It could be so amazing. Not to mention, Jasmy has this amazing advantage over other competitors, in my opinion, because it's the first legally compliant cryptocurrency in the country of Japan. Now, this is going to take time for people to kind of digest in a sense, because some people don't really care about regulation, let's face it. And also on top of that, some people just don't really care about this. But I think for those who are in the know, they'll care, because this is crazy to think about. I mean, you got to think about how many projects exist out there, right? But then Jasmy is like the first one to become legally compliant in Japan. Keep in mind, a lot of people even call Jasmy the Bitcoin of Japan because of this. Now, to become legally compliant in Japan, allegedly, at least from what I've heard, right, it's very difficult. The process is very complicated, very laborious. So the fact that Jasmy could pull something like that off, could you imagine the energy, the time it took? And granted, by the way, it didn't really need to do that, in my opinion, because many projects out there, they are not bothering with this type of stuff, right? And again, I'm not saying they're lazy or anything like that, but it's not hashtag super necessary, hashtag Jorge Masvidal, if you know, because Jasmy could have easily been like, yeah, we're not focused on this. Who cares? We're just going to be Jasmy. And even despite that, I would still be bullish on Jasmy anyways. But then the fact that Jasmy, again, has that special added sauce, the fact that it is legally compliant in Japan, I think that's just a cherry on top. At least that's the way to take a look at it. I think Jasmy is this special project that many people don't really understand, because I get it. It's not focused on the most interesting market. Data storage may seem kind of boring. It doesn't have like the biggest community out there. It doesn't have the best exposure. But in my opinion, there's beauty in simplicity. Jasmy may not be that overly complicated, but I think that's actually good, because this is actually very easy for people to understand. Keep in mind, many projects out there, they have too many layers. It's very difficult to understand what they're all about. Jasmy is very simple. They're focused on data democracy. Basically, that's a very fancy way of saying how they're focused on decentralizing data storage. A lot of data storage nowadays is highly centralized. Decentralization could bring a lot more benefits, like for instance, not being controlled by a single entity, also not having these multiple single points of failures. So I think the benefits of Jasmy, also its use case, also what it's all about, is very simple and easy to understand. And I like that. I don't like things that are overly complicated. Not to mention as well, the data storage market is predicted to be worth nearly $800 billion by 2030, according to Fortune Business Insight. So I think you get what I mean here. Jasmy, the focus is clear, the fundamentals are clear, and also the community, even though it's not the best or the biggest, it's heading up there, and they're very passionate, and I like that. I think passion really does play a big role when it comes to Jasmy, because you take a look at how, the community, again, they really do believe in it. Even at the boring times when Jasmy was doing complete caca, let's face it, right? It was at one point. Many people still believed in it, and so did I. Now, of course, it was kind of boring at that time. However, you could feel the passion there. Even as of right now, we see Filecoin being that massive. We see Siacoin storage, Arweave. Their community hasn't even had the same passion of like a Jasmy, even though when it comes to Filecoin, it's done fantastic, historically speaking, right? Even still, despite that, it seems like the community doesn't really have that passion. But when it comes to Jasmy, it feels like a meme coin type of community, like the passion, but then the fundamentals are actually amazing, pretty much on par with like a Filecoin, Arweave storage, or like, a Siacoin. So that's why I really like Jasmy, man, I think is one of these hidden gems, in my opinion, even though it's not a small cap by any means. Keep in mind, it's not like I discovered Jasmy. It's not like I'm the first one to talk about it. No, I'm very bullish on it, but I think not enough people talk about Jasmy. I think many people don't really know what it's all about, but for me, I do believe in it, because I think this coin could be so amazing, and Jasmy at the price of $1 wouldn't surprise me whatsoever during this bull run. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain. I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.